What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again. I don't do top 5s too often. In fact, my last one was 2 years ago. Last time around, I did a top 5 for various Halo projects, movies, just basically anything that spawned from Halo kind of qualified for that top 5. This time around, we are going to be sticking with Halo once again, but we're going to be concentrating only on mods, so only games, only mods for games, so not any actual official Halo game side project like Spartan Assault or anything like that. It's only for modifications by fans. In order to qualify for this list, a mod has to have a public release, which means that while there may be mods in playable states, such as Installation 01, or Winter Contingency, where people have put up videos of those, they aren't publicly available, so they will not be on the list. And the other thing is of course I have to have played it, because how else will I form an opinion on it? I guess there's videos and stuff like that, but it's really not the same as actually having gotten your hands on a title and having played it at that point. Starting off the list at number 5 is Halo Campaign Commander. You may already know this mod if you've gone to my front page. It was for a long time my top mod, and for quite a while now my second place mod after 6 years of being on my channel. Obviously, being that the video is 6 years old, you can assure yourself that this mod is on the older side, and it's partially why it's number 5. But I'll get more into that at the end here. So, Campaign Commander is a mod for Star Wars Forces of Corruption, and it never actually saw a full release. Its only update came at the end of 2011, in which the creator converted most of the ground units to Halo units. So, there was some custom buildings, Covenant and UNSC forces were placed in, but the original game has space content. There was a lot of vanilla structures left in place. There was one new map added in, and then some unique features, but beyond that, it never actually saw any other updates. Despite the popularity and all the new assets that were in the works, the project was shelved by the creator Farseer, so he can concentrate work on his other project, Rise of the Mandalorians. And then obviously that, like I said, the last update was 2011, so he's been working on Rise of the Mandalorians since 2011. Now, with that being said, as a testament to his work, people still comment on the mods page. Nearly 7 years after the last update, people continue to ask, when will work resume on this project? When will Halo Campaign Commander come back to us? Like I said, it's finding itself at the end of the list though, partially because of its age, but mainly because it never got finished. It was a high quality mod for 7 years ago. I still think it would probably hold up pretty well today, because it is a little bit more unique how many RTS games have both space and ground combat. I'm trying to think, and I can't really think of any right offhand that have both. So that is 5th place here, so let's go ahead and get to number 4. For number 4, we have Operation Homefront, or just Homefront as it's more commonly known as. It is a mod for Homeworld 2, and it's an RTS that is developed by 8080, who is also part of the Operation Trebuchet dev team. If his name sounds familiar, that would be why. Homefront maintains a close relationship with a number of different other mods, as you may have realized at this point. Probably one of the closest with Sins of the Prophets. They've shared development of units over the years, and while they've kind of diverged in what the content of their mods are, they definitely share a earlier development cycle. But what really sets this mod apart is, despite being the second oldest game, base game on this list, what is most impressive is the graphics are just absolutely stunning for this, especially the particle effects. That's what really sets it aside, I think, in my own opinion, of course. In just watching this game and watching up close, I just love to see, especially the Covenant ships, just firing their plasma and just impacting the UNSC ships, and you see, you know, the hull will sometimes be burning from the impact, and you know, you'll get like sparks and stuff flying out, and a big flare up when a ship explodes. It's all quite impressive. However, despite, you know, the graphics being quite stunning, Homefront finds itself lower on the list due to any sort of lack of update for the past 4 years. They did have some news 2 years ago talking about, you know, Halo Fleet Battles, the board game that got discontinued, having come out with a bunch of new units, which they were going to adapt to the mod, similar like Sins of Prophets did. But their updates never came, at least they have not came yet. Part of that is due to the fact that Zero has been working on Operation Trebuchet, and he took like a half a year or a year off from like modding at all to concentrate on real life stuff. So that's kind of hurt the mod. That kind of coupled with, you know, despite being a unique RTS, I personally find Homeworld kind of lacking as far as an RTS goes. There isn't much variety or flavor in the maps. You're getting thrown into a sphere, which is a giant 3D space, and it's all about just, you know, it's like most other things. It's controlling resources is big, but it doesn't feel like there's ever any variety when you're playing, you know, one map to the next or anything like that. It's just a background. Still, with that being said, stunning game, definitely worth checking out if you have Homeworld, or if you can get it on sale. It's a nice little addition to any Halo collection. Finding itself in the number 3 spot is Halo SPV 3. It is a modification for Halo CE, and it is the longest in development project on this list at a whopping 14 plus years. You know, I don't know exactly how long it's been, but yeah, 14, almost 15 years. That is insane for a mod to have, you know, been in development for that long and still see a release. You know, it's one of those things that happens sometimes, but that's this is like the blue moon of modding. The idea behind SPV3 was to add in what the development team felt Bungie lacked in the original Halo title. They added in things like armor abilities, similar to what Reach had, you know, new maps, expansions on the maps, new weapons, new vehicles. They brought the brutes into Halo 1. They brought, you know, the skirmishers from Halo Reach into Halo 1. New flood types like ODST Flood. Just so many different things and changes. They put in their own terminals. You know, they have like anti-gravity areas on the Pillar of Autumn, new graphics, you know, just so many things packed into this mod. It truly is impressive, the amount of work that went into it. Now, after that long, many developers have come and gone from the project, but the most well-known developer still on board is Master Lead himself. He maintains a strong presence on social media platforms, especially within the Halo community, on Twitter and things like that. Now, Master Lead and his team were supposed to have a project that was a follow-up to SPV3. It was actually designed to be a sequel to Halo 3 ODST. The project was known as Project Oddball. Unfortunately, Project Oddball was canceled. It was supposed to basically be kind of like SPV3 was to Bungie. They were going to do what they felt 343 lacked in their games and modify upon that title. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see that. I was really looking forward to a sequel to ODST. I'm kind of curious what they would have done with it. Would it have followed, you know, upon the story of New Blood or done something quite unique? It's hard to say, and unfortunately, it sounds like we'll never get to know. But with that being said, in regards to SPV3 itself, it does find itself in the middle of the list, despite its high-quality mod. It does kind of lack to innovate in anything we truly haven't seen. It is building upon a base game that is from 2001. It is the oldest title on this list. It is the title that inspired all the other mods on this list too, so bear that in mind. But, you know, if you have played Halo 1, well, this does add a lot of content to it. At its core, it still feels like Halo 1. You know, and that's not a bad thing, but it doesn't really shake up or innovate in any amazing or insightful ways. Still, one of the best mods I've ever played for Halo, so it's definitely worth checking out. Pick yourself up a copy of Halo CE for the computer if you can get it for cheap, and check out this mod. It's definitely worth it. Number 2 on our list is Sins of the Prophets, which is actually a title for 2 different mods by the same team. One for Stellaris, and the first original mod was for Sins of the Solar Empire Rebellion, which is where it gets its name from, Sins of the Prophets. Today, for this video, we will be concentrating on the latter, which is the one for Sins of the Solar Empire Rebellion. Sins of the Prophets, or SOTP for short, is led by Unicraken. It is possibly one of the most active Halo community teams out there, and as stated above, they have relationships with Homefront, but they also have relationships with SPV3 and even hands in the Arma 3 Halo community. So Sins is a total conversion that adds in the Covenant, the UNSC, a deadly flood which replaced the base game's pirate faction that can take over your ships and turn your own fleets against you. They also have several Halo-themed native factions that are like rebels floating around in space they have to fight when you get into a new sector, and Halo-themed events that can pop up. Now, this is not necessarily a mod for the faint-hearted. Its focus is on asymmetric warfare between the factions of the Covenant and the UNSC. So if you like to play as the UNSC but you want to fight the Covenant, you're not in for an easy fight. The Covenant do have a strong early game advantage with superior technology. You know, the Covenant have shields and they have a lot of health. They can absolutely destroy the UNSC with a competent Covenant player behind them. Now with that being said, you know, there's technologies you can research just like the base game, which end up putting the UNSC on equal footing with the Covenant, similar to where they are in Halo 5. Ships start to see shields. You've got the UNSC Infinity. Now, like I said, earlier on in this game's development cycle, it did share a lot of assets with Homefront. You know, they had a lot of the same units that you saw in Homefront, you saw in this. Since Halo Fleet Battles came out, they did move away towards the now official ships like the Orion and stuff like that. So those have been put into game, and they're fantastic looking ships. They're really well implemented into the game. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a blast to play. Now, with the quality maintained in the continued development of this, because this is still in active development, they just came out with a release not too long ago, and they're continuing on their next patch coming out whenever. You know, this is very likely choice for a number 1 slot. In fact, the only thing that really held it back from number 1 is, of course, my own personal preference. As I said, that would be an issue here. You know, it's definitely a tough choice placing this one because it's, you know, a really well maintained and really good quality mod. You know, unfortunately, you know, with that being said, it is in 2nd place, but it is a really solid title. If you're into RTS games or 4X games, it's definitely worth checking out. If you don't want to get Sins of the Prophets, you know, check out their Stellaris mod. It's not quite as well developed in my opinion, but there's still a lot of potential there and it's still quite fun. Just the same quality they put into the models and units on the Sins of the Prophets, or Sins of the Solar Empire, they do it for Stellaris just as well. Alright, let's head into our final mod in place number 1. Last but not least in the number 1 spot is Operation Trebuchet. I mean, I do weekly videos. Was there any question that this was going to be the place it had once it wasn't in the rest of the list? So for those of you who don't follow my content regularly or just have somehow missed the constant updates I do on Operation Trebuchet, it is a modification for Arma 3 and probably one of the most unique mods listed on this list. It's not an RTS, you know, it's not a modification of the original Halo game, so it's quite different from any other mods out there. Operation Trebuchet, or OpTre for short, started its life as the Eridanus Insurrection. The project is currently headed up by the Dog, and it's been in development over several years and has seen numerous releases adding in new content with each release. You know, right now we're looking at a release possibly within the next couple weeks for this, really going over and fixing up a lot of the content that they've had in there for the past several years. You know, obviously, as a modder, and a content creator, your skills and stuff evolve over time. You become better at it, you learn more, and so they're looking to go back and improve upon the old things they've done, just as many of these other mods on this list have done. So personally, one of the reasons this is in place number 1 for me is Trebuchet is something I have wanted for years. Before learning of Arma, I always thought, how cool would it be to have a Halo game that was more realistic? Something from the perspective of Marines, or ODSTs, something like Rainbow Six, or Battlefield. Those were always what came into mind. And in fact, there actually was a Battlefield Halo mod that I never got to play. But you know, those were always the first things that came to mind. And then I played Arma 2. And that was the game I knew I wanted from that moment. From the first time I saw Arma 2, I was like, this is the game I want a Halo franchise in. I want the Halo universe in the Arma sandbox. I had to wait until Arma 3 came out to get it, at least to get a proper mod for it. There was a couple of Spartans released for Arma 2, but never felt quite right. Now, Trebuchet, you know, it gives us a wide sandbox of content to play with. You get Pelicans, you get Scorpion tanks, you get numerous weapons from across the Halo franchise. You got Marines armor, you've got, you know, naval uniforms, you've got dress uniforms, you've got workout apparel for the, I mean, just like anything you could imagine from like the Halo universe, it's almost all in there. And as if that wasn't enough, there's large maps, giant sandbox maps to play on. A ton of side mods. Anything that's not in the main mod, it's almost all in side mods. There's a side mod that adds the Sparrowhawk, the Albatross, you know, just things that you would never think that you would get to handle, like actually playing as. I never thought I'd get to fly an Albatross ever in a Halo game or any sort of side Halo game. But now I can. You know, and some of it needs work. It's not all the same quality because there is, like I said, there's the main mod, there's side mods, there's different levels of development skill here. Things over years have been developed and taken in and removed and replaced, and so there's all sorts of different quality levels of this mod, and that's probably my biggest gripe with it, is there's kind of a lack of consistency. However, like I said, the dev team is working to try and rectify that with the main mod. Aside from that, the only other thing I really feel it's lacking is any sort of Covenant presence. Now, that's really what I personally have wanted to see. You know, having the Insurrectionist and those options there is pretty awesome. I know a lot of people are really excited to see that sort of stuff in there, and they prefer to keep it just that way. And, you know, for them, that's great, but I do think the option should be there to have the Covenant assets. Hopefully within the next year or so, we'll finally get to see that realized, but that's just a hope right now. Who knows where that will go. Now, this is definitely my strongest recommendation for number 1. It is a very realistic game. There's a lot of walking and a lot of stuff like that. Basically, all the flaws of Arma 3 are still prevalent in Operation Trebuchet, but still, despite those flaws, it is by far probably like I said, my opinion here, the best mod on this list. At any rate, guys, that was my top 5 Halo mods. Did I miss anything that you guys think should have been on the list? What upcoming mods that haven't been released yet are you looking forward to the most? Is it something like I said, Installation 01, Winter Contingency, something else besides those? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think should have been the number 1 mod, and I will see you guys in the next video.